Australia isn't fine. It's collapsing in real time and they've trained you not to notice.
New data just released has shown that Aussies have just suffered the biggest decline in their real incomes of any developed country around the world in the last 12 months.
The Albanese government is leaving South Australians in the lurch.
The currency is weak, houses cost millions, and our wages are still stuck in 2012.
Was named one of the world's most unaffordable housing markets.
Rents are up, groceries are up, interest rates are up, but what is not up is our wages.
Those 3 bags cost me $170.
6 things in this bag. Can you tell me how much you think that costs?
Nearly $200 to live for 3 or 4 days.
Life in Australia isn't the paradise it's marketed to be anymore. For ordinary people, it feels like survival has become the national pastime. Everything is expensive. Rent is sky high, groceries cost more every week, fuel drains your wallet, and inflation is hitting harder than ever. The cost of living has turned daily life into a relentless struggle. Families are forced to cut back on essentials, young people are locked out of housing, and even full-time workers are finding themselves broke before the month ends. Parents are skipping meals so their children can eat. Pensioners are rationing medication because bills keep climbing. Students are juggling multiple jobs just to afford rent and food, leaving no time for study. This isn't resilience. This isn't doing it tough. This is exhaustion. A system that punishes survival, drains dignity, and leaves Australians wondering how much longer they can keep going. Every trip to the supermarket feels like a robbery. Every rent payment feels like a punishment. Every bill feels like a reminder that prosperity has collapsed into panic, because in the so-called lucky country, life doesn't feel lucky anymore. It feels like collapse. It feels like betrayal. And it feels like a nation where ordinary people are being asked to carry the weight of systemic failure. One overpriced grocery basket and one impossible rent payment at a time.
Living in Australia is starting to feel like a total fucking scam. Once was the lucky country. Well, we're flat out of luck. What is it that we have going for us anymore, truly? Like, I posted the video about us living in a dictatorship. Well, we certainly don't have a fucking say with our politicians and what's happening in society. They prioritize absolutely the opposite of what the layperson, which is most people, need day to day. We're in a cost of living crisis, housing crisis, power crisis is what's going to be coming. Like, what the fuck?
I remember when I came to Australia 17 years ago, life was easy. Making money was not impossible. Now everything is difficult, everything is expensive, and it's really hard to make it to the end of the month. I'm a single mother, and let me tell you, that's not easy. I am wondering, where is Australia going to go this way? Are we trying to emulate America? Are we going to become like them? Where are we heading to?
I should have bought a house last year. 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 I should have bought a house last year.
If you feel like all of your friends are looking for work right now, it might be because Australia's unemployment rate just hit a 4-year high. In September, unemployment jumped to 4.5%. That is the highest it's been since 2021. We also gained about 15,000 new jobs last month, but because more people started looking for work, that is why we still had an unemployment increase. The slowdown is hitting sectors like healthcare and aged care. So basically, the post-COVID job boom is finally cooling off. Job ads dropped by 0.3% last month, the biggest fall since early 2024, meaning that employers are becoming more cautious. Some economists are saying that if this trend keeps up, we could hit 4.8% unemployment early next year. And so the RBA is on alert. Treasurer Jim Chalmers says that it's not time to panic, that it's just a transition as the economy slows. But with unemployment rising and job ads shrinking, what we do know is that the job market is shifting.
How much does bottled water set you back? This is $10.30 for a 24 pack at Coles, so that's $1.23 per litre. You can get the bigger 8 pack, $6.50, which is 54 cents per litre for the larger ones. What I've done is bought 4 of these. They're $4.69 each at Aldi. And then I head to my local water refill station where I can fill up my containers for 45 cents per litre. This water is reverse osmosis, which means it removes absolutely everything from the water, including fluoride, heavy metals, toxins, viruses, all that sort of rubbish. And then the bonus is I'm not adding hundreds or thousands of extra plastic water bottles to the problem. Because this process does remove some of the good minerals as well, you just need to add a pinch of salt to it to remineralize your water.
Australia isn't fine. It's collapsing in real time and they've trained you not to notice. The currency is weak, houses cost millions, and our wages are still stuck in 2012. 500,000 migrants get dumped into a broken system. Rents are up, groceries are up, interest rates are up, but what is not up is our wages. We're essentially paying more to live worse. This isn't even a country anymore. It's a corporate rental complex that's paying you to survive, not thrive. The worst part is most people think voting will fix all of this. It won't. Australia won't collapse with a war. It'll collapse in silence, and the ones aware enough will know how to escape it.
Alright, I just been and got the shopping. I'm back home now. Those 3 bags cost me $170. That'll last me 3, maybe 4 days. Food. $170. Nearly $200 to live for 3 or 4 days. What the fuck, Australia? What is this shit? I'm alright. I make enough money to be able to afford my groceries, but I know for a fact there is plenty of people out there that do not. Imagine having to support a whole family on like $1,000 a week when I'm only feeding one person and it's nearly $200 for 3 days. Yeah, okay, I probably eat more than the average person. But still, imagine supporting a family of 5 or 6 off $1,000 a week. You'd pay your rent or your mortgage and the entire rest of your fucking paycheck would be going to freaking groceries, bro.
Australia's rental crisis isn't just bad, it's basically permanent. And no, that's not an exaggeration. According to Core Logic, Aussies are now paying a record chunk of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. Rents have exploded literally up to 50% since the pandemic, and developers are saying the pain has barely started. In fact, some developers have stated that this crisis could last another 15 years, even if the government comes in and tries to fix it tomorrow, which, spoiler alert, they won't. And why? It's literally simple economics. Vacancy rates are around 1%. Construction is the lowest it has been in a decade, and population growth is off the charts. 188,000 new immigrants arrived in just the last 3 months. International students and graduate visas are at a record high, all while the housing market is still crumbling. But here's the thing, this might not just be poor planning, this could be political. The Labor government has every incentive to keep immigration high. And why is that? It's because the biggest immigrant voting bloc, Indian Australians, overwhelmingly vote for the Labor Party. So don't expect Albo's government to moderate anything. They're not going to fix the rental crisis. They are literally fueling it. Because to them, immigration is a vote bank. But for you, it's skyrocketing rent, packed inspections, and no way out. This isn't just mismanagement, this is political choice. And unless we speak up, this rental crisis won't just continue, it will define a generation.
I just got another rent increase. I'm so angry. It makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. What am I paying for? The house has actually probably gotten worse. When I first moved in here, when was it? I can't even remember now. Like just during COVID. I can't remember. But anyway, when I first moved in, this place was $640 a fortnight. Want to guess what it is now? $860 a fortnight is what I'm now going to be paying. For what? For what?
Every trip to the supermarket in Australia feels like a robbery in slow motion. A basket of basics, bread, milk, vegetables, costs double what it did just a few years ago. Families walk through aisles, calculating every item, deciding what they can afford to leave behind. Parents are forced to cut back on fresh food, swapping nutrition for whatever is cheapest. Students skip meals to stretch their budgets. Pensioners ration their diets, not because they want to, but because survival demands it. Groceries aren't just food anymore. They're a symbol of collapse, a reminder that inflation isn't abstract. It's lived every day, in every checkout line, in every receipt that feels heavier than the bag it represents.
Is anyone else in Australia kind of like, what's the point? If you're maybe like in your 20s, your 30s, and you're not being given things by your parents, and you've gone to uni, finished school, gone to uni, got a degree, which was meant to get you a good job, and that job was meant to pay for a house and maybe a holiday once a year, and maybe you'd have some kids, and that's like not happening now, and you're kind of just like, what's the actual point of anything? Like, I'm 28 and I kind of thought by now, like, I might have like a 3-bedroom house, maybe like thinking about kids, maybe successful in my career. The screaming you can hear behind me is my landlord's fucking grandkids, because my landlords live right behind me and I live in a tiny fuck-ass studio. And no, I don't live in Melbourne or Sydney. I moved regional to try and save money, and there's no jobs out here. Anyway, it's kind of just made me reassess my whole life. Like, what am I doing? Should I just go traveling? Is the world gonna blow up in like 10 years and none of it matters anyway? Like, what's the general attitude? Because I'm kind of, and I'm a pretty like A-type person, like to plan everything. I'm just kind of feeling like, fuck it. Like, should I just do what makes me happy? Like, I don't know. Like, what are you guys doing? What are we doing? Yeah, this comment is absolutely right. Australia is bloody cooked. And then you've got the government saying productivity is down. No shit, productivity is down. If people are working harder than ever, and most people I know, they're working their full-time job, they've got a couple of side hustles, and they still can't afford a house, they still can't have a future for themselves or for their kids, no wonder productivity is down. You know, we have a serious problem when people who are university qualified, and I'm talking like engineers, doctors, lawyers, healthcare professionals, teachers, people who are in really high demand, these people can't afford to live where they are required to work. That is a serious issue. No wonder productivity is down. I think a lot of young Australians are in this position now where they're like, what's the point? I did everything that I was required to do, all these things that were promised to me for following the right path that was set for me and doing the right thing by society. It's actually not bringing me any happiness. It's not giving me the things I was promised. So what's the point? What am I doing? What are we doing? What's everyone doing? Because yeah, at this point, I'm working my ass off to rent my landlord's fuck-ass small mold-infested studio, and I don't know, like, is it bad to want a little bit more for my life? Is it bad to want to go travel and see the world and do what makes me happy? Like, I don't know.
What is the point of having a strong economy if it means that we have more people living below the poverty line? The poverty level in Australia has gone up since COVID, not down. It used to be 1 in 8 people, which is already quite high, and now it's 1 in 7 people. So it's increased to about 14.2%. The only time it's been higher is during 2003 and 2007, when our economy was actually booming. When our economy was the strongest, just before the financial crisis, that is when Australia's poverty level was the highest, at about 14.4%. After the financial crisis, the poverty rate actually lowered. So just because the economy is doing well, it doesn't mean that everyone's doing well. What it usually means is that there is a group of people who are doing extremely well, and that is reflected in the booming economy. But what's not visible when you look at those numbers are all the people that are living below the poverty line, even though the economy is apparently doing well.
So 142,000 Australians plan to leave the country by the end of 2025. And I genuinely think there isn't a better decision you can make these days because of where the country's going. Like in Australia now, you'll just about get taxed on fucking anything. For example, in Australia right now, they're talking about implementing a spare bedroom tax. So if you have a bedroom in your house that you don't use, you're gonna get taxed on that. Not to mention all the other property tax you need to pay. Capital gains tax, GST, personal income tax. People are paying way too much for that. Like last financial year, I paid 45% tax on my income, which is fucking way too much. And I think a lot of people now are realizing that it's just not even worth living in Australia, especially if you want to get ahead. Australia's government is completely fucked right now, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm leaving as well. Fortunately enough though, I'm in the position that I can relocate and work from wherever, so I'm fine. But if you're a young Aussie struggling with the cost of living and worrying about how the fuck you're gonna buy a house in the future, you need to put yourself in a better position. Australia's going to shit, bro. Get out ASAP.
I just went to the shops. I had to grab a few really quick items. In fact, I grabbed 6 items. 6 things in this bag. Can you tell me how much you think that costs? Dishwashing tablets, Earth's Choice. These were on special. Not a big special, but special nonetheless. Item number 1. Item number 2. Mission wraps. Item number 3. A bag o' salad. Item number 4. A teeny tiny bag of shaved parmesan. Item number 5. Gnocchi. And item number 6. The only sausages that I will eat. Sausages. Peppercorn. Extra lean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How much do you think my 6 items cost me? Let me know in the comments. I am dying with this. This isn't as bad as it has been, but I don't think we can afford to live anymore. We have a spare bedroom, but it's not like I can rent it out. We have a child. You can't just have a rando living in your house. Living in your house? Anyway, let me know what you think this all came to. I live within half an hour to 40 minutes of the city, so I'm not in a rural area. I think you call that metropolitan, maybe. Winner gets to comfort me. Winner gets to comfort me. Winner gets a shout out to my 3 followers. Winner gets to pay my therapy bills. Winner gets to name my next sourdough starter. Winner gets just job well done. Job well done. That's what the winner gets. Job well done.
The Albanese government is leaving South Australians in the lurch. You know, in South Australia, my home state, Adelaide was named one of the world's most unaffordable housing markets. Most unaffordable in the world. Well, this piece of legislation does nothing to help that. If you're a renter in Adelaide, according to monthly data from private analytics company PropTrack, Adelaide had the worst rental availability of any capital city in Australia. So if you're in Adelaide right now and you're feeling like you can't find an affordable rental, it's true, you can't. You're not alone. You're not alone because so many other South Australians are dealing with the same issue. But I tell you what, this government's not helping you. They are leaving you on your own. They're failing to help you because of the arrogance and the inability of this government to understand that the Australian people want this government to cooperate, to really feel the pressures that people are under, to put the politics aside and get something done that actually delivers real relief for people. Rent in Adelaide homes rose by 11% last year. This bill does not help that.
New data just released has shown that Aussies have just suffered the biggest decline in their real incomes of any developed country around the world in the last 12 months. So basically, the OECD has just done this big survey of all countries around the world and looked at how much people's incomes grew and then what inflation means to show what people's real income was impacted by. So income increase after inflation, and it shows that Aussies have got a pretty raw deal here. In the 12 months till June, Australians' real incomes have reduced by 5.1%, which is the sharpest fall recorded in the OECD, and it brings Australian real incomes to their lowest level since 2019. The funny part of it is that our inflation is not the highest in the world, but because our wages are growing at a rate that's much slower than a lot of other developed countries, that means that we're suffering as a result. Now, you only need to go to the supermarket or the petrol station to feel this, but essentially this data shows what we've all been feeling, that our incomes are going backwards pretty significantly. This puts pressure on the government to do something about it to help Aussie households, but given that they've been focused on this for the last little while, I feel like they're running out of ideas.
Nothing has humbled me more than the Australian job market. I literally used to joke, oh, I'll clean people's toilets if it means I stay in Australia. And I did that for 10 months. But I've been here a year now, I've learned a lot, and if you're moving to Australia anytime soon, this video is going to help you with the whole job searching process. My first and most important tip is flexibility. You have to be flexible when coming over to Australia. As much as I laugh and joke about it, I've had 2 really casual roles now, one in hospitality and one in cleaning, and they both serve their purpose. fabulous. I enjoyed the jobs. I love the people I work with. However, it was a bit of a shock coming over here and having to go back into casual roles because I wasn't able to get something in my actual industry and career. But I am a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and I truly believe that they have been part of my Australian journey for a reason. Following on from that, whether it's you're looking for a casual role or you are looking to build your dream career over here, you need variations of your CV. Honestly, I have about 47 variations of my CV, and it has helped so much to get some attraction from potential employers. If you're looking for a casual role, make sure you've got a retail CV, a hospitality CV, an admin CV. Make sure you're tailoring every time that you're applying for a job. Just looking out for the qualities. If they've asked for any specific qualifications or skills, make sure you're putting them onto your CV. In terms of where to look for jobs, my third tip would be to keep an eye on applications that go live on Seek, Indeed and Facebook every single day. Bit similar to the housing situation over here, you have to be on the ball. Nothing is going to come to you, as I've learned. If you're still struggling after all of that, my fourth tip would be to utilize your network. When you come to Australia, you meet so many people, whether that be at social groups, run club, at the pub. You do come across so many people, and I would definitely say if somebody mentions in jest, oh, my place are looking for somewhere, or I know my company are hiring for that role soon, use it to your advantage. Send them your CV, send them your email, ask for their manager's email, pop into the place they work, and you might not even be that close of a friend with this person, but you have to take any opportunity that comes your way in Australia. I know they do say in life it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that more than once has been the case for me whilst being over here. I actually wouldn't have got my last two roles without knowing somebody that worked for the companies, so definitely use that to your advantage. So if you have just moved over here and you are feeling a little bit lost, do not worry, I completely get where you're coming from. I was in that exact same position a year ago. I wish I could go and tell myself that everything works out, you just have to know these tips and tricks and something will come along. Make sure you follow me for more videos on how to move to Australia, and if you've got any tips or tricks that you want to share on the job hunting process, then leave them in the comments.
And then there's rent, the punishment that arrives every month. Half of every paycheck disappears into the landlord's pocket. Lease renewals arrive like threats. Prices climb to match the market, while tenants are told to be grateful for mouldy walls, broken heaters, and inspections that feel like invasions. Families are being forced out of suburbs they've lived in for decades. Young couples abandon the dream of stability. Students cram into overcrowded share houses, pretending it's temporary. Pensioners quietly pack up because they can't keep up with market value. Rent isn't a stepping stone anymore. It's a trap that drains income, erodes dignity, and leaves Australians with nothing to show for their struggle. And when rent rises faster than wages, the outcome is inevitable: collapse.
Can someone explain to me how this is possible, that we are spending billions of dollars overseas, yet royalties are only collected at 2 to 3%, and then the taxpayer is paying 3 times, 4 times more than big corporations? Now, we also have to look at the fact that 1,200 companies don't pay taxes in this country, but if we were to collect every year, that would be $39 billion back to the taxpayer, but they don't collect it. They go after the small people. Then we go on to pay $50 million per year to take care of past politicians that have ruined this country. Every single one of them from both sides of the aisle. Then we're paying $1.something billion per year to keep Parliament House open. Can someone please explain to me where this money is coming from? Where is it coming from? But what does jump in my mind is Godfrey Bloom, who was an ex-MP, and he talks about fractional banking. He jumps in my mind. Counterfeiting. You know, the more I research, the more I am disheartened, and the more I see how people are very conditioned over the years, over the generations, about supporting big parties. I just hope Australia wakes up. I remember when I was travelling overseas, people used to say Australians were stupid. And now I get it. We are stupid. We are definitely stupid.
Commissioner, Mr. President, I rise again, I'm afraid, to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
I've just spent an hour at Stocklands, Marylands, and I'm going to show everybody why Australia is going down the toilet and is stuffed with excessive price hikes and grocery bills. Have a look at this. Come over here, V. This is what $248 bought me at Woolworths in Marylands. Now, let's go through it. As you can see, we've got 3 bags and 3 packets of wipes. Now, we've got some shampoo. Okay, 4 of these hand wash. Dry shampoo for the missus. Toothpaste. And some deodorant as well. Come over here, very basic items, spring onions, shallots, whatever you call them. Bit of pasta sauce, muti, that's what they call it. Lemons. Panadol for when I give the missus a headache. And some tuna. Now, in the 3rd bag, we've got just basic items. We've got bread, Vegeta, bit of cucumber, baby pickled, whatever you call it, sweet potato, and tonight's dinner. Now, $248, and here's a receipt to prove it. Absolutely disgraceful. They have failed Australia. This government has failed Australia. Now, you know why people are struggling to pay the mortgage, the rent, the bills, put food on the table to feed their children? We've got our federal politician, Albo, and his communist mob, pissing up our money on woke initiatives like welcome to country indoctrinations, rainbow initiatives, and sending billions of dollars overseas to causes while our people suffer sleeping in cars, tents, and struggling to keep a roof over their head. It's not on. $250. Wow, this is what Australia's become. Over here, I've also got the meats and some fish and fruit. The fruit costs $76. I won't go through it. I won't go through it all. I'll just show, you know, all of this is bananas, cucumbers, very basic stuff. And from the butcher as well. Australia is fast becoming a socialist state. It's not good enough. We need to be looked after. The people need to be looked after, not suffer excessive price hikes. Shame on you, Anthony Albanese. Shame on you, federal government. You've failed our people.
So here we are, the so-called lucky country, the postcard nation, the place that sells itself as paradise. And yet, for ordinary Australians, life feels like collapse in slow motion. Rent is high, groceries are expensive, inflation is hitting harder than ever. The cost of living has turned survival into the national pastime because, let's be honest, this isn't just a tough patch. It isn't just a temporary cycle. It isn't just global pressures. This is systemic failure, a nation where prosperity has been replaced with panic, where stability has been replaced with exhaustion, and where collapse is no longer unthinkable, it's inevitable. Every trip to the supermarket feels like a robbery. A basket of basics, bread, milk, vegetables, costs double what it did just a few years ago. Families walk through aisles, calculating every item, deciding what they can afford to leave behind. Parents cut back on fresh food, swapping nutrition for whatever is cheapest. Students skip meals to stretch their budgets. Pensioners ration their diets, not because they want to, but because survival demands it. Groceries aren't just food anymore. They're a symbol of collapse. A reminder that inflation isn't abstract. It's lived every day, in every checkout line, in every receipt that feels heavier than the bag it represents. And then there's rent, the punishment that arrives every month. Half of every paycheck disappears into the landlord's pocket. Lease renewals arrive like threats. Prices climb to match the market, while tenants are told to be grateful for moldy walls, broken heaters, and inspections that feel like invasions. Families are being forced out of suburbs they've lived in for decades. Young couples abandon the dream of stability. Students cram into overcrowded share houses, pretending it's temporary. Pensioners quietly pack up because they can't keep up with market value. Rent isn't a stepping stone anymore, it's a trap that drains income, erodes dignity, and leaves Australians with nothing to show for their struggle. And when rent rises faster than wages, the outcome is inevitable: collapse. Behind every bill, every rent hike, every grocery receipt is a story. A family forced to choose between heating and food. A single parent working 2 jobs, still unable to keep up. A student living in a share house with 6 others, pretending it's temporary. A pensioner quietly packing up because the landlord wants market value. These aren't isolated struggles. They're everywhere. They're daily. They're the quiet crisis no one wants to name. And the human cost is devastating. Relationships strained. Communities fractured. Mental health collapsing, people living in cars, in tents, in motels, while landlords expand portfolios and politicians give speeches about resilience. And yet, the government pretends this is fine. They call it market forces. They say it's challenging. They frame it as global pressures. But it's not global when groceries double in price. It's not temporary when families are forced out of their homes. It's not resilience when people are living in cars. They'll say Australians are resilient. That they're adaptable, that they're resourceful, but resilience isn't a policy. Adaptability isn't a solution. Resourcefulness isn't a safety net. These are survival mechanisms, and survival shouldn't be the baseline in a wealthy nation. The truth is simple. The government knows. They know the rent is too high. They know the wages are too low. They know the cost of living is crushing households, but they're not fixing it because they're not feeling it, because they benefit from it. Because they own the homes, they sit on the boards, they write the policies, they cash the checks. And Australia sells itself as paradise, beaches, sunshine, opportunity, stability. But what does it mean when the people who live here don't believe it anymore? What does it mean when citizens feel trapped, exploited, and betrayed? What does it mean when the lucky country feels like a scam? It means the identity is broken. The myth is shattered. The brand is hollow. Because if working full-time still leaves you broke, if rent eats half your income, if groceries feel like ransom notes, and if the government keeps gaslighting you into thinking it's your fault, then what exactly are we proud of? Australia isn't losing its dignity because of global pressures. It's losing it because of choices, because of priorities, because of cowardice. And yet, you're expected to stay quiet, to keep working, to keep paying, to keep pretending. Because if you speak up, you're entitled. If you complain, you're ungrateful. If you demand better, you're radical. But silence doesn't fix collapse. Silence doesn't feed families. Silence doesn't pay rent. Silence doesn't restore dignity. Silence just protects the people in power. And Australians are done being silent, done being polite, done being gaslit, done being blamed.